Greetings, Real Times Visual Effects crew. Welcome to the three-part dynamic cloth series where we're going to be creating cloth simulations as a rebroadcast for the class on Tuesday, of which I forgot to click on the record button during our video session, and henceforth this is to supplement that. Many apologies for the delay, but regardless, here we go. We're getting on our way. All right, we're going to show three types of cloth here. We're going to show a very simple type of dynamic cloth. Then we're going to show a full-blown cloth simulation that's going to be more form-fitting and a little bit more exact. And then we're going to show the dynamic cloth on a dynamic character. Now, this particular video is going to just show the very simple dynamic cloth. Look for lectures 2 and 3 for the cloth simulation and the dynamic character simulation. All right, for this very simple cloth dynamic simulation, the strategy for creating this guy is we're just going to create a simple flag on a flagpole. Very simple, and we're going to let that flagpole flap around in the breeze. The strategy here is that we're going to create an object in a DCC, and in this case I'm going to use Houdini. However, you could use any kind of DCC that you want. You could use Maya, you could use Blender, you could use 3D Studio Max, you could use whatever you like. I'm going to use Houdini because that's my package of choice, but you are free to use whatever if you want. And then from our DCC, we're going to export that flagpole to an FBX, which is then going to be imported into UE4 as a skeletal mesh. We're going to adjust that physical asset based on its physical attributes. We're going to paint in the cloth attributes. We're going to manipulate its parameters, and then we're going to have it go to town. All right, now let's get things going along here. Now, as mentioned before, you can use any DCC that you wish, but the real objectives here in order to create this is you want multiple separate objects, which are going to be instanced as separate groups. Each should have its own unique material because you're going to separate them inside UE4, and each needs to have its own texture UV set. And however, they all need to be output as one FBX. All right, so let's get going and munch on to the Houdini demonstration. All right, for what I did here is I created a brand new project, and I say new project, and I called this one cloth simulation. All right, now I've already created this, but you would probably want to go ahead and click accept so you could have access to this. So let's go ahead and start creating this. Now we have a blank scene here, so I'm going to lay down a geometry node. Come on, there you go. Give me a geometry node. There you go. I have a geometry node, and I am going to call this geometry node flagpole. All right. Now I'm going to make sure that I am in my proper project. Oh yeah, I am. Okay, yeah. Yep. All is good. It's okay. So I'm ready to go. So we've got dropped our geometry container there. Let's drop into our flagpole. All right. The first thing we're going to do is drop down a tube stop. This is going to be our flagpole. I'm going to go tube. All right. There's our tube. I'm going to call this guy our pole. And so I'm going to make sure that the primitive type is a polygon. I'm going to make sure the orientation is around the y-axis. Yes. End caps is turned on. The center Y channel is, I'm going to put in an expression here. Now notice here that this object here is centered at the origin, and I want this object to always sit on top of the origin so that no matter how tall I make it, it's always sitting right at ground plane. So I'm going to put a little expression here called 0.5 times CH, and I'm going to open parentheses. I'm going to put in parentheses height, close parentheses, close quotes, close parentheses, and voila. This little expression just says take the height and then translate the center of the object half as much, so that no matter where we go, the height is the tube is always focused, right at the ground level. Now I'm going to make this radius scale 2, And whoa, it's getting very big. And I'm going to create the height 200. Whoa, now that's really big. All right, you might be asking, gee, Chris, why are we creating this flagpole so large? Well, remember, we are taking this into UE4, and UE4 is in meters, and Houdini operates in centimeters. So therefore, since we need to create, so basically, UE4 is 100 times bigger than Houdini, so we need to scale our thing 100 times to make sure that it translates directly to UE4. So we've created our pole, and now, well, let me move this out a little bit to give a little space so you can see things. We've got our pole, so I'm going to append a UV texture sop. So UV texture. All right, we're going to give it some UVs, and we're going to want to make sure we have blah, 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 tubular, cylindrical. Yeah, cylindrical axis. We're going to project down the y-axis. And then I'm going to turn this entire thing into a group. Now, the reason for that is because I'm going to create a material for it, and I'm going to need it to be its own group to designate its specific material. And so I'm going to call this material my pole group. Let me spell that correctly. Pole group. All right, and then I'm going to put an expression here to put everything into the pole group that is in there. So I put everything here as the pole group. If I put the display on there, the whole thing is displayed, which is great. I'm going to make sure that, okay, I've got 14 primitives inside of my pole group. Very nice. So we are good to go with that. I'm going to hit, oops, I'm going to go ahead and save this, save as, and go, and I'm going to call this cloth simulation 2. I'm calling it 2 because this is the second time I've done it. The first time, or regretfully, it's in the bit bucket because I forgot to hit record. Anyway, let's go ahead and create the flag. In order to create the flag, we're just going to drop in a simple grid, which is nothing but a plane. And I'm going to call this flag. Flage, no, flag. All right, we have a flag here. And so the primitive type, we need it to be a polygon. Connectivity, we need to be quadrilaterals. The orientation, we want to be in the XY plane. The size should be about 100 by 100. Make it nice and big. Now the center, we're going to fit it so that it works on the flagpole. The center should be at 52 and at 146. Ooh, that's 1,466. That's 146. And the rows and columns should be 50 and 50. Okay, the reason why we're putting 50-50 is we need substantial enough geometry in order to sustain the cloth-like behavior. We need to have lots of geometry in order to do lots of the bending and twisting and undulating. All right, like the pole flag, we are going to stick, well, I want to see both of them at the same time, so I'm going to put a group sop here, and that's going to combine both of our objects. Okay, so we have a group. There's my flag. There's my pole. Oh, I didn't want to group. I want to create a merge. My bad. Okay, drop in a merge. There we go. All right, there's our flagpole. Now that's looking much sexier. Okay, let's give this flag object itself a texture map. So I'm going to go UV texture. Okay, we're not going to put cylindrical coordinates on this. We are going to put orthographic units, and we want it to be projected from the z-axis. So we're styling with that. And then we're going to put this into a group, and we're going to call this our flag group. And everything that we have in here needs to be inside the group, so we now have a flag group. And I'll toss that in here. So if we go and look at the merge, we grab the information on there. We see we now have two groups. The flag group, which is now 2,400 objects, which is about right. And for the poll group, which is 14 primitives. Very nice. Very good. All right. Now we've got our simple flag model here. Let's go ahead and add ourselves some materials. I'm going to go ahead and lay down a material network, and I'm going to call this UE4 dummy mats. All right. Now this is a network, so that we're going to have to drop into our network. There's nothing in here, so let's drop the first object in here. We're going to add a principled shader. Okay, principled shader. I'm going to drop that bad boy in there. And then I am going to call this, let's call it pole mat. Because this is going to be a material for our pole. And keep it simple, so we want this to be just green. That's fine. Green it is. All right, pole mat. Then I'm going to hit the Alt key, and then I'm going to drag pole mat, and that's going to create a duplicate of that, and I'm going to change that to flag mat. Okay, so now we have a flag material. Now this one I want to be just simply red. All right, we've got two materials, a pole material and a flag material, and I'm going to hit U to go back up to my SOP network, and then we're going to build onto our merge here. In order to do that, I'm going to assign materials. So I'm going to say mat. Come on. Materials. Yeah, that's what we want. All right, materials. Okay, now we want two materials because we have two different objects. So I'm going to click the plus, move that over to 2. And now for our group, we can now choose I want my pole group here. And for my material, I'm going to hit my selection. I'm going to go into my flagpole, my UEW mats, and I'm going to use my pole mat. Export relative path here. We're styling here, so let's hit tab number 2 for our second group. Our second group is our flag group, and so therefore my material is to be the flag material. Easy squeezy. Okay, and we now have a green pole and a reddish looking flag. All right. And I'm going to output this. So I'm going to output this to an output. And I'm going to call this one just flagpole out. And to obey my OCD, I'm going to go ahead and hit color in that, hit C. I'm going to flag this, make it color green, and green means go. So this is where we're going to be going from. I'm going to hit U to go back up to the top level, and I'm going to hit File, Save, just to save this bad boy. And now we're going to just export this as an FBX. I'm going to go ahead and hit Tab. I'm going to go ROP, lay down a ROP network, and I'm going to say flagpole to FBX. All right, I'm going to get that. Okay. Now all we have to do is just drop an FBX node in here. So Filmbox FBX. All right, and I'm going to go flagpole FBX. Very good. And now I'm going to choose my output file. I'm going to click this, and I'm going to go to the export, and I am going to call this, let's call it flagpole demo 2. Flagpole demo 2. Okay. Oh, and we want this to be a FBX, so let's make sure that this is FBX. All right, my export, and so this is my path to what I want to be exported, and we want the flagpole object. Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to say operate bundle. That's not what I want. So we got export, integrate internal directories, internal frames. Okay, so we have object flagpole, and this is what we're going to export. All right, I'm going to hit Control S just to save that. I'm going to hit Save to Disk, and it is now saved to disk. And now we can go into UE4 and open that up in our engine. I'm going to create a new folder inside UE4, and I'm going to call this Flagpole Sim. Oh, I'm going to call it, Flagpole Sim. Flagpole Sim. Okay, I'm going to drop inside of this. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and import my FBX. So I'm going to go up with Houdini Cloth Simulation and say Export and Flagpole Demo 2. That's what we want. I'm going to open up. And all right, we're going to want to make sure to import this as a skeletal mesh. So make sure to click that as true. Make sure to turn off the animation so this isn't on. And make sure that the Create New Materials is turned on, because we wanted to create a couple of new materials and we wanted to just use what we've got. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Import All. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. It's going to complain. It says no smoothing group and couldn't find the bind poles. Don't worry about it. It is okay. It is all right. Now we've got two materials here, so let's modify our materials to make it look a little bit more natural, kind of like a flag and a pole. So let's open up the pole material. It is right now very green. So let's change the color to be a little bit more bluish, kind of like a little bit more metallic, kind of cool, cobalt-like. All right. Yep. That's kind of like what I was looking for. Yep. Like a little brushed metal, kind of like bluish aluminum look, and it's not looking very metallic, so I'm going to add a constant. Going to give that a value of 1. And pipe that up into my metallic, and we're looking for more of a brushed metal look, so we're going to have to roughen it up a little bit. Well, actually, I'm going to leave it right at that. That looks kind of pretty rough as it is. It's not too smooth, not too mirror-like, but kind of rough. So I'm going to just leave that as. That doesn't look bad. Just leave them as is. Okay, are you finished saving? Thank you. Now, let's go ahead and modify that flag material. We'll go flag. There we go. And now this thing is red, and so I don't want red. I actually want a flag. So I'm going to delete this, and so let's grab a texture parameter. So texture param 2D, this will work, and I'm going to call this flag color. And so flag color, let's go and get our map, and I'm going to use just the ring. The ring texture that we used a couple weeks ago when we were working on our material animation. So I'm going to type rings, T-rings, and put that into the base color. And we don't want it to be metallic because this is fabric, but we will want this to be kind of rough. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the constant. And I'm going to make it a value of 0.9 to make sure that it's not very shiny. If it was black and looked shiny, then we might look like it was a fetish Batman type material. We don't necessarily want that. Well, before we move on, let's make sure that this flag material is double-sided, because we have a flag. Well, let's just say if we didn't have two-sided, if we turn this on, we couldn't be able to see it. But we turn it around, yeah, there it is. But if we make it two-sided, we still see it from this perspective. Come on, don't make me a liar. And now we see it from the other perspective, which is now backwards. Go ahead and hit save, because we are now ready to move on to the next section. All right. Let's go and take a look at our static mesh, which is this object right here. Okay, everything is looking good. Everything is looking fine. I want to rotate rotate around the flag parts, make sure that we can see everything. Everything is looking good. Go ahead, hit save. I want to go in and modify the physics of this. So I'm going to press physics next. And there is our collision. Oh, excuse me. Here is our collision tube that we're going to use for a collision. And for this, all we want to do is put this along the flag pole itself, because we don't want the flag itself to actually collide into anything. So I'm going to select the tube, hit rotate. So I want to straighten this up. Then I'm going to scale it down to be kind of skinny. And then I'm going to move it over so that it sticks along the flagpole, and let's make it a little bit taller. And this is still not quite straight, so I'm going to see if I can, for the rotation, blah, 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 blah. Division is okay. Come on, give me a nice small little granular rotation. Okay, it's not going to give it to me. Okay, what could I do here? Oh. I'm going to just leave that as, well, actually, well, I'm a liar. What I'm going to do is kind of rotate this a little bit towards that way, just so we make sure that we have all that together. All right, a little bit more of an aggressive rake on that flagpole. I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and then I'm going to return back to the mesh. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the cloth simulation. And so we're going to need to make sure that the cloth section is selected. So we're going to select that, make sure that the section selection is definitely selected. Click that, right-click it, and go to Create Cloth Data from Section, and then we have to identify a physics asset. Since we already have a physics asset, it should already be selected. Let's go ahead and hit Create on that. Okay. I'm going to select it again, right click, and say Apply Clothing Data. And then I'm going to choose Flagpole Demo 2 Clothing 0, LOD 0. All right. Now it's thinking, it's going to compile, it's thinking, blah, blah, blah. All right, it's come back to us. Okay, good. Now we are ready to start painting. So I'm going to select the clothing data object here, and this whole section turns on, but we haven't exposed our painting information yet, so I'm going to hit the Activate Cloth Paint. I'm going to go ahead and press that, and the whole thing turns pink. All right, okay, it looks like our paintbrush is a little bit small, so let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So let's make it about 20 so that it goes a little faster. And my fall off is about 1, so that's good. Okay, so this is looking good. And so for the painted tool is, right now the paint value of my tool setting is 100. What this means is that each vertex will move at most 100 centimeters away from its original position. Now this is a pretty big flagpole, so it might move more than 1 entire meter. So I want to increase this by 5. So I'm going to say this is equal to 500. Actually, let's go for broke. Let's call it 1,000. Then we know for sure it's going to work. All right, I've got this going, so I'm going to go ahead now and just start painting in this flag. Yeah, that's what I want. But I'm going to make sure to leave a little bit of pink left over here that touches, oops, I can't believe I did that. I just erased all that. Okay, let's see if we can paint this without getting too close. All right, hopefully good enough. Now let's give this a try. So I'm going to turn off the deactivate cloth paint. Oh, I'm going to make sure that the other side has been painted as well. So I'm going to go and make sure that this is okay. Everything looks like it's painted correctly, so we should be fine. I'm going to deactivate my cloth paint, and my physics should enact. All right, there we go. The physics has kicked in. All right, now I'm going to turn this back on here. Now, if we want to see the wind actually blowing this around, what we're going to have to do is go to Character and go to Clothing, and then where it says Enable Cloth Simulation, click that on. And we're already doing it, but for the wind strength, click this value of 1. And now when we hit Deactivate Cloth, we see our flag blowing in the wind. It looks like we're biting in a little bit too much onto this flag here, right around this area. So I'm going to see if I can reverse this a little bit. So I'm going to go put a value of 0. And for my value, I'm going to go 2. And I'm going to go a little bit close to see if I can just paint this stuff so it's a little bit even. All right, now let's hit the deactivate. Nope, still is right. All right, so I'm going to move that back to 1,000 instead of 100, and I'm going to just paint this just a little bit close, just to get it all just nice. All right, almost there. All right, that's looking good. Turn this off, and it looks worse. Let's see if we hit Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Okay, it looked better there. All right, you're gonna have to play around with this for a little bit and get it to the right setting. But as you can see, the cloth painting. In fact, let me go and see if no, just leave it as is, because this is a quick demonstration. You guys all saw how it worked, and so you might just have to repaint it. But this is an easy object here, so we should be fine. All right, we wait for UE4 to finish doing its thing. Come on, let's go. Oh yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the parameters about this. So if we're going to fine-tune the simulation, let's, oh, come on, UE4. There we go. Now, I don't want to go to the physics. Where is this coming from? So all of this is stuff that is on the way coming here, and stuff we don't want to deal with. So I want to have is my flagpole demo 2 asset here. All right. I'm going to turn that back on. So there we go. There we go. It's flapping in the wind. Now here are some parameters for the simulation configuration. Most of what we're going to have to deal with is dampening, drag, inertia, and then stiffness. Now, for this simulation, we're probably going to get the most bang for our buck manipulating the dampening. Now, dampening does not mean that it's going to stop the motion, but it's going to stabilize the motion by reducing the number of oscillations. And basically what this means is that it applies the brakes to slow down the movement. It doesn't stop it, it just slows things down. So it's not going to stop the motion, it's going to slow it down. So I'm going to change this to maybe like dampening to like 10, 10, 10. And you see if we reset the cloth and then activate it, it hardly does anything. So it's been dampened out the yin-yang. Now I'm going to go and return this back to where to my factory settings, and so it should behave a little bit more so we can actually see what this is working. Now friction is a parameter that we can manipulate if we have two objects rubbing against each other, and so this will basically slow the rubbing between them automatically, and that's the friction. The linear drag is the force that impedes progress. Now linear drag isn't something we're going to deal a lot, but angular drag probably is. And so that's going to basically meaning that it's going to be hard for this thing to fold over. So if I add angular drag and add maybe about this to about 10, and then turn this off and react again. There's a little bit of impact on here, but not too much. But I'm going to leave it right as is for the time being. And stiffness, this is not probably going to be seen much, but according to this, the stiffness is the of where you have a particle, stiffness between each other, and how the particles stick to the cloth. But in this case, we're just going to leave those alone for now. So I'm going to leave this as is and hit save, because I like what I've got. Now let's return to our level, and let's toss in a flagpole object, and I am going to rotate it around just a little bit so that it's pointing off to the right. All right, now notice here I prior put in a wind object. Got my wind object, there we go, our wind directional source. Now I'm going to choose our wind directional source so it's pointing, roughly in the same direction as our flag. Now let's go ahead and hit play. As we see, our flag is now simulated at a realistic looking clip. Not too difficult, pretty easy, and it looks fairly realistic, so not too shabby. This has a lot of applications. You can make simple flags, you can make banners, you can make simple cloth. This is a very, very useful tool, and then we're going to be returning back to this technique on the third video in order to create some sophisticated cloth for our main character. But this kind of wraps it up as far as our simple cloth demonstration is concerned. Stick around for the second video where we go into a more complicated cloth simulation where we use vertex cache animation. All right, I'll see you at the next video.